This is a special episode, especially for people like me who have a lot of gray hair. In today's episode, we are going to talk about longevity. Is longevity only about looking good well into your 80s and 90s? Is that even possible? Or is there more to the science of keeping fit and staying healthy well into our silver years? We'll be discussing this and more with JC in today's episode of the FITTR podcast, season 3. How old do I look?
Early
Honest
60s,
answer.
man. You're doing pretty well.
Okay. Jokes aside, I'm just 44,
Right.
right? Don't mind the gray hair. But a lot of people, guys, girls, men, women out there, uh, would want your opinion, your feedback, let's say your advice on how they can stay fit well into their 60s, 70s, and beyond. Because trust me, my generation, we've seen our grandparents grow old. You know, we've seen our grandparents grow old. We don't want that. And we want you to make sure that doesn't happen to us. Are you up for the challenge?
Sure. As long as people are willing to listen.
We are all ears.
First of all, we have to understand that it's entirely possible. We have enough data, we have enough science, we have enough examples of how people can actually not only live longer, but they can prolong their life. It's not very uncommon people to live beyond 100 years either. In Japan, a lot of people easily extend beyond 100 years.
Yeah. There's an island, I think, where I think a lot of the oldest people live.
Yes. So average age on that island is like 100 plus years, right? So I'm saying it's entirely possible. But before that, we have to understand what are some of the factors that constitute aging, or let's just say what are some of the things that prevent us from living that longer.
Okay.
When we talk about longevity, we are talking about longevity of our individual organs, because what exactly are we? Like, our bodies are basically cells, tissues, organs.
Right.
So if the cells are getting old, the tissues are getting old, the organs are getting old, in a sense we are getting old. Right? Which means that the signs of aging aren't just restricted to one thing. If the cells are getting older and the cells are getting weaker, you will see signs of aging everywhere in your body. So weak muscles, weak bones, weak teeth, nail, hair, everything can be a sign of aging.
Correct.
Okay. So how do we de-accelerate this aging process? We have to look at it from a cellular level. How can we prolong the lifespan of a cell? But before we understand how do we prolong the lifespan of a cell, let's understand what exactly a cell is. A cell is basically a living organism inside your body, that has some nutrition demands. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrition. And when we specifically talk about nutrition, some amount of glucose, which is the fuel that it needs for energy, and largely amino acids, because amino acids are basically the structure, the building block.
Right.
So think of a cell as a brick in the wall, and when the brick gets older, the wall experiences a certain amount of wear and tear, and then this brick needs to be replaced. Or like somebody needs to go and repair that particular brick, and then the wall is as good as new, right? And that brick can be replaced by another brick, which means that cells can only be repaired or replaced by either newer cells, or they have to replace, which means that some of the older structures need to be replaced by newer structures. And when we talk about structure, we are specifically referring to amino acids, the proteins, right? So cells need protein, cells need oxygen efficiently. If they are getting these two things, the cells will not age in an accelerated manner.
Right.
Now, it seems very simple because this is exactly what our heart is designed to do, right? It pumps blood day in, day out, and it provides nutrition and oxygen to our cells. So people would say, hey, it's already happening in my body. What more can I do? The thing is, the process does not remain efficient as we grow older. Because our vessels become more tighter, which restricts the blood flow. And it also makes it difficult for our lungs to extract oxygen from the air we breathe, because people are probably smoking or they are not exercising enough. So as we keep getting older and older, the work capacity of our organs also diminish if we are not keeping their health in check. And as a result of which, this overall efficiency of nutrient delivery to each and every cell in the body diminishes, as a result of which the cells start getting old in an accelerated manner. So how do we keep this system efficient or improve the efficiency? You have to take care of your heart, you have to take care of your lungs, your kidney, your liver,
right?
And of course your brain, right? So, and each of these required a different kind of, I would say, not a different kind of regime, but at least a different kind of understanding. The basic thing that you can do is avoid doing something that's hurting them in the first place. What are some of the things that can hurt? Smoking can destroy your lungs. Smoking also destroys your heart. Alcohol is absolutely detrimental to your liver and kidney. Not exercising is absolutely bad for your skin, for your bones,
your joints, your
for
muscles,
your joints and muscles.
Yeah.
Right? Not drinking enough amount of water affects overall your body, because your body is like 60-70% water, right? Then not sleeping enough. So I'm saying there are basic things which, if you keep in mind, they will prevent wear and tear of these organs, these cells, and these tissues. So this will help you live a normal life. If you want to prolong life, which means how do you make this process efficient, then that's a different discussion altogether.
Right. Which we will come to.
Which we will come to.
I'm pretty sure of
Which we
that.
will come to.
Now, I know a lot of people are listening to this episode and saying, JC, great. You told us stop smoking, stop drinking, and all that. We'll start doing that from today. What about the years of damage that we've done to our bodies before this? Is that something that we'll always have to live with? Is that reversible? Is there anything that we can do at this stage to make sure that the rest of it doesn't impact the rest of our lives as much?
Some of it is reversible, some of it is not.
What is reversible? What is not reversible?
Let's say if your lungs are damaged by 80%, they will never get better by 100%. They'll probably get better by, let's say, sure, they'll come back to, let's say, 60-70% capacity, but never 100%.
That's something you have to live with.
Something you have to live with, and that's good enough. Sure, you're not going to live 120 years. If you continue to your lifestyle, you'd probably live for 60 years. But if you modify or improve your lifestyle, sure, you can even live for 80-90 years. So it's entirely possible, right? So I'm saying something is better than nothing. And it works everywhere. It works in your finances, it works in your your social well-being, it works in your mental well-being. Something is always better than nothing. So don't think, hey, I'm not going to live for 100 years because the damage is already done.
Right.
No, if you take the action today, you can still add more meaningful 20-30 years to your life. That's the amount of recovery that's possible.
Or even if, let's say, you don't add years to your life, the years that you have left will be healthier, you'll be fitter,
much more qualitative.
Right. So, I know people love lists, and I know people are probably sitting with a pen and paper waiting for you to give them tips. Okay, here are the 5 things you need to do to stay young till your 80s or 90s. Let's talk nutrition.
Sure.
You spoke about the importance of amino acids, so obviously protein is something that needs to be important. Yes. One myth I hear, and I've seen that with my own dad, is, I've hit 60, now I don't need to eat so much protein because my activity itni hai nahi. Is that true? Or is that, do your protein requirements actually diminish with age?
No, not true. Actually, your protein requirements increase with age.
Why is that?
Because as a kid, your body is in a growth phase, which means that whether you eat sufficient amount of food or not, it will affect, obviously, it will affect your growth and everything, but your body is going to grow nonetheless till you hit maturity, right? And also because your body is, it's just producing new cells. But after that, you attain a certain age, so we talk about the cellular turnover often, right? Where we have number of cells producing at any given time, the number of cells which are in repair, and the number of cells which are dying.
Yeah.
So towards the start of your life, you have more cells producing, less cells dying. And then you hit the curve.
That kind of flips on its head when you hit
it. Then you kind of hit the curve. So if it goes like this, then it starts coming like this, right? So if you create a ratio of number of cells being created versus the number of cells dying, so you kind of hit a bell curve.
Is there a certain age at which this happens?
I think if you are an athlete, it will probably happen in your late 30s. If you're not an athlete, then probably once you have reached your maturity, like 25, 28, after that you start.
You actually saying that from the age of 25 there is a decline. I mean, you're more cells dying than more cells being
If you're
created.
sedentary,
If you're
yes.
sedentary.
If you're sedentary, if you're an athlete, add 10 more years.
Hmm.
If you're an athlete, then you keep growing. You like, like, because that just the body creates demands for more cells. So a lot of people, um, if they are sedentary, they will not have that added advantage, right? So they will immediately start on the other side of the cellular turnover, where the number of cells which are dying, they gradually start getting more, and so there comes a time, and this usually happens in the late, where it completely starts kind of going parallel to the x-axis, right? Which is when the number of cells which are dying
Yeah.
is just way too much compared to the number of cells which are growing.
So because you have more cells dying, there
Yes.
is a greater need to make sure that the cells you
Yes.
have left are being repaired faster.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Precisely.
And
That's
that's
the
where
reason.
protein comes in.
Yes, that's where protein comes in.
Right. So
So
it's not just about protein. There's got to be physical activity along
there
with
has to be physical activity, but even if there's no physical activity, I've told before that protein is not just needed for muscles.
Right.
This myth needs to die, that you need protein only if you want to build muscles. No, you need protein for your hair, you need protein for your organs, you need protein for your skin, nails. Everything in our body is made out of proteins. Right? Everything is made out of protein. So people have this weird notion that, hey, if I'm building muscles, I need protein. No, even for your hair, your nails, your skin, everything is made out
connective
of
tissue,
protein.
especially as you're
Connective
growing
tissues,
older.
your bones, your joints, everything is made out of proteins. And I mean, collagen itself is protein, right?
Right.
And collagen is like one of the most abundant proteins in the body. It makes up your skin, makes up your organs, makes up your connective tissues, right? Collagen is a protein, and collagen is made up from the same amino acids.
Correct.
We take these amino acids from your food. People have no problem in taking collagen without realizing that collagen itself is a protein.
Right. You want to have that sippy thing, the cranberry collagen shake.
It's so weird. It's just
But
protein.
do you also need more protein because your body's ability to absorb protein goes down? Does that happen with age?
Now, so absorption depends on many things. Like, again, that also boils down to your gut's efficiency. Like I said, organ efficiency. So your ability to digest and absorb protein is going to go down as you age if you are not keeping up with a certain regimen. So that's true. To a certain extent, it goes down. Right? Your body does not absorb as much protein as it would if you were younger.
Okay, so let's say an older person, 50, 60 plus, is on an 1800 calorie per day diet versus, let's say, a person who is 30. What would the protein compositions be? What is the ideal protein composition in an 1800 calorie diet for an older person?
No, that's not how we determine protein. The protein determination basic process is that you should do a 0.8 to 1 gram per kg of body weight. This is minimum.
That's minimum. Okay.
That's minimum. Minimum as in like itna to chahiye hi chahiye. This is ICMR guidelines. This is not RDA. ICMR has a different guideline which says this is minimum for basic survival. So whenever we say minimum, we are talking about survival, not optimal health.
Correct.
For optimal health, then we have RDA. RDA is roughly 1.2 to 1.6 grams, and if you're an athlete, goes to 2 gram per kg of body weight, right? So if you are looking for optimal health, you have to follow that 1.2 to 1.6 or maybe up to 2 grams per kg of body weight.
Even if you're, let's say, 50 plus or 60.
If you're athletic, yes, sure.
What
if
about
you're not
sedentary?
If you're sedentary, I think 1 gram, like I said, 0.8 to 1 gram is like absolute minimum. But having more protein is definitely going to be more helpful.
Now, talking of protein and protecting your cells or regenerating your cells, a common issue that a lot of older people have is weaker bones. What causes weaker bones and what can we do about them? What can we do to prevent weaker bones?
So we have to understand that bones are basically weight-bearing structures, right? Which means that bones basically bear the weight of the body, right? The primary intended purpose is to bear the weight, right? And if you add more weight, the bones have no other choice but to become stronger or become more denser, right? So any sort of resistance training is going to improve your bone mineral density.
Okay.
Especially if you do that towards the early part of your age. The more later you do it, the more less results you will get. But for the first half of your life, if you have trained, then your bone density is going to be above average, right? If the bone density is above average, obviously, as you get older, your bones are going to degrade at a much lower pace compared to somebody who's never exercised. So I'm saying you are already preparing your bones for older age now when you're younger, right? So to improve the weight bearing capacity of the bones, you have to do resistance training. The joints are supposed to be mobile,
Right.
right? The joints are supposed to help with mobility. The joints are supposed to help us move. How do you make those joints more efficient? By adding resistance. When you add resistance, the body has no choice but to adapt and make your joints, make your connective tissue stronger.
Correct.
Right? When the connective tissues are stronger, it's hard for them to perish at a normal pace.
Osteoarthritis or osteoporosis is something that we talk about a lot.
Yes.
But one thing that doesn't get spoken about maybe is sarcopenia.
Yeah.
Could you tell us the difference between the two and what causes them and what are the preventive measures?
Sarcopenia is wastage of muscles. When we talk about osteoporosis or osteoarthritis, it's basically inflammation in your joints, inflammation of your bones, and your bones degrade over a period of time.
Okay.
So I have osteoarthritis, for example. It affects all joints in my muscles, and it's a autoimmune condition, right? So which means that it won't go away. It will progressively get worse. So what happens is that your bones start degrading over a period of time, and as you get older and older, your bones start losing its the bone mineral density. Yeah,
They actually become softer and more porous.
Yes, more porous. Right, that's the name, osteoporosis. Right, so they become more porous, and the only way to prevent that is to make the bones more stronger, more denser by working out or progressive overload, adding resistance training. So that's the only way to fix that. Sarcopenia is basically wastage of muscle. So once you are in your late 30s, you lose about 10% of your muscles every 10 years or so.
Really?
Yes, roughly. I don't know the exact thing, but roughly 10% of your muscles every decade you lose. Right, which means that by the time you go into your 70s, you've lost 50% of all the muscles.
Yeah.
Right, whether you work out or not work out. Right, but
which is why you see a lot of older people have shrunk. They almost look smaller.
They shrink, right? They shrink, and so what happens is and muscles basically take a lot of load off of your bones. So this also kind of puts direct load on your bones, because think of muscles as basically they take away a lot of load from your bones. So while bones are weight bearing structures, but if they are not surrounded by muscles, the weight bearing capacity will significantly go down. The muscles help bones to take up much more loads. And so if the bone structure along with muscles was capable of lifting X weight, because you are also experiencing sarcopenia year after year after year, by default, but not doing anything, the same weight that your body is able to hold comfortably will not be able to hold, because the muscles are not enough. Yes. The muscles are going away.
And you know what that means? You're talking knee replacements, you're talking hip replacements, and so many other things.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to tell people when it comes to exercise? We spoke about resistance training. It's strange, but a lot of older people have a lot of resistance to resistance training because हमने अभी तक तो किया नहीं है, अभी क्या करेंगे? They would rather go for morning walks, they would rather go to laughter clubs, yoga करेंगे and all that. But are you ever too old to start resistance training?
No, you're never too old. Everybody, right from your young kids to older people, there's no good age to start resistance training. Every age is a good age. You can start. See, resistance training is basically what? You are basically lifting something, your own body weight or something against some sort of resistance. And every time you put up some sort of resistance, your cells, which are otherwise dormant, get a reason to get damaged and repaired. If there's no damage, they're not going to get repaired. They'll just wither away, just like that. So every time you do resistance training, you are providing a stimulus to your cells. And so the cells which are about to die, they're like, hey, maybe we have need in the body after all. Let's become stronger. And this happens at every age. So people need to not worry if they haven't done resistance training. Surprisingly, even if you are like 80 or 90 years old, you can benefit like a beginner if you're doing resistance training for the first time. A lot of seasoned experts, let's say if somebody's been training for 20 plus years, if they continue training for another 10 years, they will not get the same benefits. But if you're new, if you have never done the training, the first 2 years, you will still get similar kind of benefits.
Even at that age.
Even at that age. So that's also incredible. That shows that body just wants you to train. Like it's very rewarding and it will reward you immensely. Like even after 6 months to an year of resistance training, you will see huge differences between the way you were before and between how you are post resistance training. The pain will go away. You'll feel much better. You'll feel a lot younger. And like you would have added a lot more quality years to your life.
So let's say I'm 50, 50 or 60, and I want to start resistance training now. Give us a brief, guideline or an outline of a protocol that I can start with right away. Let's assume I have no training experience.
No training experience. Start with absolute basics. Start with compound movements that you can do at home. Start with basic movements. Basic
Body weight
movements.
exercise is fine.
Body weight exercise is a great way for anybody to start. Okay, so start with, let's say, knee push-ups. Knee push-ups are extremely easy. Anybody can do. What you're doing is you're improving your shoulder muscles. You're improving your chest muscles. You're also kind of building your back. You're building your triceps. Okay, knee push-ups are good for this. And then you can also do just chair squats. If you're too old, if you can't go unassisted squats, just do chair squats. When you're doing chair squats, you're focusing on your hip joints, you're focusing on your knee joints, focusing on your back. So you're developing your entire lower body just by doing, your body weight squats. Over a period of time, as you increase the numbers, that's what it's needed.
Okay.
That works.
So you start with body weight exercises at home. At what point do you say, okay, fine, now I'm ready to hit the gym?
Look, there's no necessity for everybody to hit the gym. I'm a huge advocate of training at home, if possible. If you are somebody who's finding it too busy to go to the gym, but if you can go to the gym, sure, go ahead, train at the gym. But you'll get almost similar kind of benefits even if you're just doing body weight training at home after a certain age, but just increasing the number of reps without the chances of injury. So there's the trade-off. If you're younger, the injuries are not a big concern. But if you're, let's say, 50 plus, then injuries are a huge concern. So if you want to, let's say, derive similar kind of benefits, just increase the reps. Work out at home, increase the reps, and then there's no chance of injury.
And it's better to start with maybe 3 days a week, then gradually to 4.
Gradually to 4 and 5, depending on how you're feeling. And start doing it to a point where suddenly you get back to getting 8 hours of proper sleep. A lot of people don't get enough sleep. And they think, I can't sleep.
Actually, it's much more difficult for older people to fall asleep. I know my dad finds it very difficult to get sleep. He's tossing and turning.
So it's a cycle. The amount of activity performed creates a demand for sleep in the body. The amount of sleep that you get also kind of gets you ready for the next day. So it's a vicious cycle. And you have to break this cycle by keeping your activity levels high. The day you work hard, and you have done lots of running around, you'll automatically feel sleep and your body will create a demand for 8 hours
and
of
you
sleep.
should give yourself that much rest.
Yes. Because if you're sleeping any less, it simply means that you're aging faster. For example, I can comfortably sleep for 8 to 9 hours every single day, sometimes even 10 hours. And because my body is creating that amount of, it's building up that amount of stress. And so it's creating that demand for me to sleep more.
It's important to listen to your body also.
Yeah, like I wear a band, so it tells me how much I need to sleep.
Right.
And everything,
Right. We've spoken about nutrition, we've spoken about exercise. One other thing that people do when they start growing older is they start depending a lot on supplements. Shell Cal, for instance, calcium supplements and vitamin D3 supplements. I don't think there is any person over the age of 50 who doesn't take it. Similarly, multivitamins to hai hi. And apart from that, you have a lot of these new agey ginseng and ashwagandha that people have started
collagen,
doing.
Of course.
Right. So, do they really help an older person? I will not ask you the question, will they work if you don't take care of your diet and exercise? I know the answer by now. They all go hand in hand. But are they really something that might help an older person more than, let's say, a younger
No,
person?
not as much as you'd hope for. They basically create unnecessary dependency, and more often the effect is largely placebo. D3 supplement surely they will work because D3 is an important vitamin. It's also a hormone and helps you with your bone mineral density and everything. Also helps with your calcium absorption. But see, it's too late. You basically you're grasping to straws and hoping that your years of like really bad lifestyle and you'll just take a pill and everything is going to be fine.
It's like
Really
putting a
works.
band-aid on a
Doesn't work. It
big
doesn't
wound.
work. It doesn't work. So even if you do take supplements, which I don't have any problems with, I'm saying don't have high expectations. And if you see no difference, that's perfectly fine. Because honestly, if you ask me, hey, is this supplement going to make a difference to my these issues? I'd say maybe 1%. Right? So some people might notice that 1% and they'll be like, oh wow, it's a big difference. Some people will say I don't feel anything, which is also perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So I would not be very, very positive about the effects of supplements in older age. I would rather suggest to focus on the diet and training and exposing yourself to sunlight. Like, see, the lack of these things cause problems in your life. And now you just want to depend on supplement to fix all of this. It's like too much of expectation.
It's also a lot of marketing also, that, here is this drink for older women, for older men.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
Because think about
Uncle
it.
was first in pain and now he's running after the grandkids.
Older people don't have any options.
Yeah.
And they are the most gullible. Because, hey, you're 60, you have no choice.
You're certainly aware of your mortality.
Yeah, you're certainly like, shit, I might not live longer. And then, I have money, I have my kids who care about me. So I'll have these million supplements and maybe I'll take a pill and I'll feel better. Never happens.
Talking of pills, I have to speak about sexual health as people grow older. Because, why not? That is part of life. It is something that you want to enjoy well into your twilight years. What are some things that people can start doing right now to ensure that they remain sexually active? Not sexually active, but what is the word? Sexually healthy. They have good sexual health even into their older years.
Same thing. Basically, sexual inactivity is basically a sign of aging, right? So it all ties back in. Understand one thing, when you're healthy, your body is primed for reproduction, because you want to give birth to a healthy offspring.
Right.
See, all this FAP and masturbation, everything, that's not nature intended us to do. Nature intended us to have sex with our partners, right? So that we can reproduce. That is the primary purpose of us developing reproductory organs. Right? So the reproductory organs are at their peak when we are at our peak when we are healthy. When we are aging, why would nature want us to give birth to unhealthy offsprings? Right? So as a result of which, even our sexuality declines. Like our sexual activity goes down for a toss. So if you can somehow keep yourself in prime condition, that means that the nature feels you're healthy enough, your body feels you're healthy enough, and it will continue to, release healthy amount of sperm, or it will have, free testosterone in your body. So you have to give your body a reason to release adequate amount of free testosterone. If you don't give your body a reason to have enough amount of free testosterone, that's basically what's happening. Your sexuality, your sexual activity goes for a toss. Not sexuality, your sexual activity goes for a toss.
Yeah. Speaking of testosterone, we're talking about free testosterone and you're talking of total testosterone and all that. I see a lot of supplements, especially targeted at older people, saying कि आपका ये T levels boost करेगा. What they usually mean is that, are they talking of free T levels that will go up? And does that actually benefit you in any way?
No. So most of the supplements are, like I said, the supplements are gimmicks basically. And there's not enough number of studies. Like even if you take example of Shilajit. So even if you're talking about Shilajit or let's say goatweed, all of these different kinds of testosterone boosting supplements, the amount of studies that's there is extremely limited. The number of samples are extremely limited. Usually what should be is that, there should be thousands of studies conducted and not case studies. And not like just observational studies or like, studies with like really shit sample size. There should be studies which is conducted on mass scale, and then we find out the results. And if we see if the results are consistent across all of these hundreds of studies, then one will not have any doubts. Today, if somebody says, "Hey, JC, Shilajit is good. It worked in 1 study, 2 study, 3 study. Why are you so opposed to all these testosterone booster supplements?" I'm like, look, if you want me to take something seriously, present me enough amount of evidence. I just don't find enough evidence to consider it worth my time or worth my client's time. See, today if somebody tells me, AJC, what do you think about whey? I don't have to think.
Because the evidence is there.
Hundreds of thousands of studies consistently proving over a period of time that whey protein is good for you. It improves your lean mass. It helps you in different kind of bodily functions. It's absolutely amazing. We have hundreds of thousands of studies on creatine, hundreds of thousands of studies on caffeine. There's nobody who can come out and doubt the efficacy of these studies or doubt the data. It simply is not possible. Today, if somebody comes out and say, hey, whey protein is bad for you, people are going to laugh at him. The whole scientific community is going to laugh at him or her, because there's so much of data that you can't just turn a blind eye to all of that data.
Right.
But today, if somebody comes up and say, hey, JC, Shilajit and this and that, nobody's going to take you seriously. Even in the scientific community today, the consensus is very much like it's like we don't know what to make out of it, because the studies don't point us in any direction. The studies are inconsistent. Out of 3 studies, 1 showed result. The one study was like there was no significant difference, and other study showed it improved your circulating levels of your serum testosterone, but it did not improve your free testosterone levels. So I'm saying that the results are very inconsistent. And just because one study showed positive results, there are 2 other studies which probably showed negligible results or no results. What am I supposed to look at? So I will always err on the side of caution, which means that I'm better off this thing. Let me focus on other modalities, which is I'll focus on exercise. I'll focus on rest and strengthening. I'll focus on my lifestyle, focus on my vitamin D. I'll focus on my sleep. I'll focus on my nutrition. I'll focus on my protein, right? These things have been documented to improve testosterone levels over hundreds of years. Not just in scientific literature. I'm saying hundreds of thousands of years. We know that this is how humans were primed through exercise, through right kind of nutrition. We know that they were taking adequate amount of protein, warriors, hunters. This is what it is.
So basically what we are doing is going back to basics. We are correcting something that maybe our modern lifestyles have disrupted. So we spoke about diet, nutrition, supplements, or the lack of a need for supplements for older people. What other aspects of life can contribute to aging that you need to take care of?
Hydration is really important. Hydration is really important. People need to drink at least 2.5 to 3 liters. This is again minimum. The requirements go up. For example, somebody like me, I need to drink 4 to 5 liters every single day because I'm highly active and I work out a lot. Right? If I don't drink 4 to 5 liters of water, like I don't feel good. Yeah. So hydration is another thing. Then, like I said, sleep demand.
Sleep is important.
Protein, rest and strengthening, and that's pretty much it. And you can track these, which is important, because obviously if you do these things, you definitely want to do what's the impact.
Right.
There are parameters like HRV, there are parameters like resting heart rate, VO2 max, which can actually tell you what your age is or how good your organ is aging. If your resting heart rate is, let's say, in its 80s, that's really bad for you, by the way. So people will say, hey, the normal person has a 60 to 80. I'd say 80 is like on the worst side. 80 is like really bad. If your resting heart rate is 80 when you're 13 and 40, you're like the worst. You should try and reduce it as much as you can. Because think about it, if your heart is working optimally, it should pump more blood in a single stroke, right? If it's taking 80 beats to you pump your entire blood, it's basically highly inefficient, right? So I'm saying the more stronger it becomes, the more efficient it becomes in pumping blood, which means that it can deliver nutrients and oxygen to your cells in a much more efficient manner.
Right.
And how does your heart do that? When you train your heart. And how do you train your heart? You train in higher intensities, So I typically recommend people to train in zone 3, zone 4 and above, which is very difficult, but that's also where your heart actually gets stronger, right? Or if you engage yourself in resistance training. Some people also train in zone 2 or do like lots of aerobic activity, which I personally find boring, because I can't run for 4 hours. That's useless. Where am I going? Right. Again, no offense to marathoners, but I just feel it's very inefficient. That's all I'm saying. If you are fan of the sport, if you love running marathons, please.
Resistance training, you go for an hour and a half to the gym, you're probably going to get the same workout for your heart.
Well, you can actually do much more in 15 minutes of HIIT than you do in 2 hours of running like steady state. That's what I'm trying to say. So you get the same benefits, even more in 15 minutes compared to 2 hours. Obviously, which one is more efficient? This one is difficult, yes, but it's more efficient.
Right.
Yeah, and you can see the difference, like week after week after week. You can notice the changes in your resting heart rate. If it's high, bring it down. My resting heart rate stays around 45 to 46, 47.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good, and that's like very
beyond
athletic.
Borg almost.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it down to 40 something, right? Similarly, you know, Sair, I'm training his VO2 max. He checked his VO2 max last week. I don't know what it was when he started, but now his is around 50.5, which is top 1% people at his age, like very, very good. And so there are parameters which you can track. And your HRV, the higher your HRV is, which means that you're on a good like you have a steady, healthy lifestyle. And if your HRV declines, obviously it is supposed to decline with age, but if your HRV is still increasing, which means that you're making positive changes to your lifestyle. So HRV is basically balance in your SNS and PNS, which is sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And HRV is highest as kids are, because you see the kids, they don't have a habit of like they are instinctive, they're quick. The reactions are extremely fast. 1 minute they're laughing, 1 minute they're crying. You know, and that's basically because the perceptiveness is extremely high. You know, and the senses are also dialed into 6. But when you age, the senses go down, your reaction goes down, your reaction time goes down.
Right.
And you tend to carry a lot of baggage, which means that if you are stressed by something, you'd probably think about it for an entire week, right? So your fight or flight response, that system gets damaged, and which is what causes all sorts of problem in the body, right? So HRV measures the balance between SNS and PNS. And so higher the HRV, the more it signifies that, hey, you're healthy. And if it continues to trend in a green, that means that you're aging in an appropriate manner, or probably in a deaccelerated manner instead of accelerated manner. So these are two things which I highly recommend people track.
Wonderful. Are there any regular tests that people should do to keep track of what their parameters are? Like I would say maybe HbA1c would be one of them. Tracking your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Do you recommend doing that? And if so, can you maybe give us a list of tests that people can do to keep track of their health?
I highly recommend that once you have turned 30, you should do blood tests at least twice in a year, which means every 6 months. And like if you have some
That's
sort of
your
an
fasting
underlying
and PP and
yeah. So no, so the kind of test that I'm talking about is you should definitely check your liver profile. You should check your kidney profile. You should do your CBC, which is your complete blood panel. Then you should do your CRP, ESR. Then you should do your testosterone, free testosterone. You should check your calcium. You should check your other minerals. Then you can also check your electrolytes. Besides this, yes, blood glucose, HbA1c, your blood pressure. Then you should check your urine. Right. So all of these tests
they should be done twice a year.
Twice a year, so that you know that all the parameters are in their biological range.
What about things like ECG and all the stress test and all that?
Yeah. So all those things are also important, but once in a year is fine. Okay. So if, for example, if you are somebody who has a history of cardiac issues in your family, I highly recommend doing a troponin test, or a ECG is nowadays also
what
built
is that
into
called? A trampoline test?
Not a trampoline test. It's a high sensitivity troponin test.
Okay.
So it's a protein which starts releasing in your blood if there's any sort of damage in your heart.
Okay.
So whenever organ gets damaged, the protein from the organs or enzymes from the organs, they start releasing in the bloodstream.
Okay.
And that's when you know that a particular organ is damaged, and then the likelihood of damage to that particular organ goes up, right? So we measure these proteins in the blood. So one of those protein is troponin. And if you detect any amount of troponin in the blood, that means your heart is damaged and you have very high chances. But again, not a medical professional. You should always check with your doctors before taking any sort of medical advice. But blood test is something which I do recommend to everybody doing at least twice a year.
Noted. I'll do that right now.
Perfect.
Right after this interview. JC, finally, before we end the episode, even, I think a lot of people might have heard all that you had to say, and some of them are very hopeful, but some of them may not be feeling very good because they realize, I haven't been doing anything. Is it too late for me? Could you give them a message, maybe a message of hope or some motivation to get started with and start focusing on health?
Look, several years back, when I was detected with hepatitis B, and I have osteoarthritis since I was a kid. And then in 2015, when my back got like really bad, like of course I've had this issue from my childhood, but my back was like completely bad and I was in bed. I could not even get up from the bed. It was so bad. And I went to the doctor. The doctor said, you have to do a surgery. And if you don't do it, you will be like this. And, even after the surgery, like give you 10 years. And after that, if you don't take care of it, you might get paralyzed. Okay? Because it was so bad. At that point of time, I realized I didn't have any choice. And because I did not have any choice, the only choice I had was to just keep living, keep trying every single day. So sometimes not having a choice can be a blessing. In the face of evident death, sometimes we do things which are necessary. Not the things we want to do, but the things which are absolutely necessary for our survival. So I would say there's no need for hope. There's no need for you wanting to do something. There's death. It's evident. And we are all moving towards it. The fear of death is absolutely necessary sometimes for us to take the right kind of actions. And it's the fear of death that keeps our lives also very, very meaningful. So I'm saying don't think too much. Don't give up. You don't have a choice. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Good thing. For you to be scared is sometimes absolutely necessary for you to be able to do the right things.
And it's never too late to do the right
It's never too late. If you don't do that, there's an evident death 20 years from now, painful, not good for you. That's the other reality. If you don't want that to happen, take action today. Simple as that.
And I hope after this episode, a lot of people will take action.
What other choice do you have?
Exactly. JC, thank you so much. As always, great talking to you. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the FITTR podcast.